Thanks for joining us once again on Tissueworld Television. I'm your host, Michael Jackson, here in Milan at Tissueworld 2019, where we're getting to meet some of the key people from the conference and indeed getting involved as speakers and panel discussion members as well at the event itself. With us now in studio, having come in from the UK, from Partners in Retail, is Teresa White. Now, Teresa keynoted on day one. I was also part of a panel discussion, whereas I was able to talk with her about a number of key issues. And as you may have gathered from her title, in the company name Partners in Retail, it's got a lot to do with the changing, shifting tides of retail across the board. Teresa, welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
I mean, you're an expert in this. The world of retail is changing fundamentally.
Fundamentally, yeah.
What were you sharing with the audience here at Tissueworld?
Well, it is an incredibly disruptive environment, and retailers are really struggling to cope, either with skills or with cost bases. So what I wanted to share was, you've got to understand things from the retail perspective, and to understand that, you have to look outward. You have to look at the wider retail world, not just at your own direct customers. Because it's a wider retail world and the customer themselves. When you see what's happening there, you begin to see what might be coming your way down the line. So it was very important to be very outward looking, to think outside the box and look at what's happening elsewhere to get solutions for yourself.
Retail is very much competing against the internet space, or the instantaneous space, if you will.
Yes.
I called that when I was speaking this morning, if you're in retail, bricks rather than clicks, you need an EPA, you need experience, price, availability. And I guess looking outside of your industry is where you're going to find that kind of experiential shopping. People want a reason not to be bored, I suspect, in retail as well.
And we talk about the experience economy, and we talk about retail theatre. And you take people like John Lewis, they're not a big customer of some of the suppliers here, but John Lewis know that it's about retail theatre, so they've actually recruited people from the National Theatre to train their staff in how to give a more theatrical experience, which I find really quite interesting.
So it's shop-attainment is coming in, I guess,
it's shop-attainment, and you get startups. There's something called edible cocktails I saw in one of the stores recently, and the merchandising, the visual merchandise, talks about create your own experience, discover your experience, find something new. It's all about personalizing and allowing people to find something that's right for them and to give them that experience, because people have kind of reached peak stuff. They're not necessarily looking for buying more things. They want experience. And so when you go to a retail bricks and mortar space, there's got to be something more interesting there for you. The problem,
even in the world of tissue, sorry to cut across you there.
No, because in the world of tissue, that's a commodity. So the retailers are looking more for theatre. So you take Waitrose in King's Cross in London. They now have a wine bar with jazz nights in the supermarket. They have a space dedicated to cookery schools, so you can go and learn how to cook. They're talking about putting hydroponic gardens into their stores, so you can pick your own herbs. So they don't. So you aren't providing pre-packed in plastic food. Now, when you've got retailers looking for that kind of experience to give to their customers, what's going to happen is the commodities like the toilet tissues, the soap powder, the things that are just repeat purchases that you don't necessarily create an experience out of, they're going to move more online because there's less of an experience to give.
Unless you can find experiences to create for them.
Indeed.
And as you said at the outset here, find experiential things outside of your framework.
Yes.
So we're going to challenge the tissue industry to get outside of their box.
Yes, indeed.
Literally and figuratively.
And
go and look for a way to sell differently.
Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you then. So just to think outside and a bit differently at what the customer, the end customer, how are they living their lives? What are they doing? How can you bring something to that? And actually where it may end up being is the supply chain. It could be those retailers who realize those large bulky items like toilet tissue, if you're delivering those to the customer, that last mile is very expensive. So maybe the industry should look at how they help with that to help the retailer reduce reduce their costs and to go direct to the customer in a way that they can get the branding across. Because if you're doing a repeat order, you're doing something like Alexa, just replenish the toilet roll,
Yes.
then where do you get that promotional benefit? How do you get a customer to switch brands? They're not looking at a shelf
Now
and seeing a promotion.
here's something I thought I'd never say at a Tissueworld. There's a brand that's emerging in the UK called something to do with giving a crap.
Who gives a crap?
Who gives a crap?
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Well, that's where a small startup is getting traction, because in this day and age, with you've got your iPhone, you've got your one click, you can gain traction really quickly by appealing to people's emotions.
Yeah.
And this is about a brand who's saying, look, just get a direct delivery. We guarantee this is eco-friendly, it's made from bamboo, and let's face it, the industry might be doing very well in sustainability in its own eyes, but the customer doesn't necessarily see that. They see it as perhaps...
The perception is not the reality. Yeah.
And you get things in the newspaper talking about how the Americans' love of toilet tissue is actually worse than some of the gas-guzzling cars they drive.
Right.
If you don't own your own story and put out there what you're doing, you give space for somebody like Who Gives a Crap to say, actually, come and buy with us. You're buying an eco-friendly product made of bamboo, wrapped in paper, not plastic, and some of the money we make goes to providing toilet facilities in third world countries in the developing world.
Yeah.
So people feel good about it. And you take, somebody mentioned this morning about loyalty. Now, I would argue that actually, if you're buying the same brand each time, it's not necessarily loyalty. It's a bit like the banks. There's just a laziness to change. If suddenly someone comes along on social media and says, hey, there's this great brand, and you can help somebody else who's less fortunate than you are, and you can save the planet by having less plastic.
Why not?
Why not? It
So
suddenly
there's
gives you that
experiential
reason to
things coming
change.
through.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Your job is fascinating.
It is. It's really interesting.
This industry can reinvent itself, can't it?
It can, absolutely it can. And people talk about the retail Armageddon, they're talking about the apocalypse, because we know the media love the doom and gloom stories, but I don't see it as that. I see it as transformation. And if you think of a caterpillar to a butterfly, it's the same thing, it's just in a different form that's more relevant for its new environment. So it's just got better at what it needs to do. And I think that's the best analogy.
Teresa White, Partners in Retail, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
A real pleasure having you in the studio.
Pleasure.
Thank you.